some things are working, something else isn't working. And I think there is something to be said for Lowe and Randy heating up in July and the Rays winning as many series of late as they have. But even winning as many series as they have, they're still only one game above 500. So it's like they...
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
And I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's Game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs or Carl Crawford,
we are here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 6th season covering the Rays daily.
And every season they've gone to the playoffs, hopefully again. So grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. And you can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
This episode of Locked On Rays is brought to you by Booking.com. Yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city. So even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today.
All right, on today's episode, we'll recap the Rays' win over the Toronto Blue Jays. They're back above 500, 51-50. Can you believe it? It's crazy. Unbelievable what's going on right now. And then a couple of fun mailbag questions that we will dive into. But Ulises, the Rays get the victory last night in Toronto. My understanding, a pretty big contingent of Blue Jays fans that were in attendance for that one. The Rays jumped out to an early lead, or a lead about halfway through the game, 3-0, thanks in part to Brandon Lowe's home run. His strong month of July continues. He's got 5 homers this month and a .579 slug. And then the Blue Jays and Manuel Rodriguez made it a little bit interesting after he gave up back-to-back home runs to Vladimir Guerrero and Justin Turner. But a win is a win is a win. And the return of the opener. Hey, look at that. A couple of pitchers, actually a lot of pitchers that were used in this game on both sides. But Shawn Armstrong and Tyler Alexander teaming up for the opener in bulk, and then creating way for the rest of the relief corps to try to complete the W. And that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened. The combination worked out well. Manuel kind of had us a little bit worried there with the back-to-back jacks. You never want to see that, but usually that happens to relievers once in a while. Hopefully it's once in a while and doesn't become routine. But let's remember that if you're upset about that, just try to get some perspective on who he's replacing. So that should be a happier medium. He's better than the options that we had seen prior to him. Okay, remember Erasmo, you remember Davinsky. Like, these are the options that were there. They're no longer there. This is good news. But Brandon Lowe, though,
yes.
My goodness, it's such a different beast when he's healthy, when he's producing. Like, it just gives you a sense of everything's gonna be okay. There's always a chance that he can just put it over the fence, and he almost did it twice yesterday.
Yeah.
The center field defense of Varsho kind of showed out,
Right. Yeah, no, that was at the very least, if Varsho doesn't make that play, it'd be an extra base hit. And if Brandon Lowe, as one day would say, had an extra biscuit for breakfast, he may have had 2 home runs in that case. But Brandon Lowe capitalizing on the first pitch for the home run. I believe it was a breaking ball. And that is the key. If Brandon Lowe is healthy and in the lineup and in a groove, in a rhythm, not in one of his slumps, he is a game changer. He can be an anchor for a lineup. And I was listening and watching MLB Network the other day, and there are some prognosticators who are suggesting that Brandon Lowe might actually be on the move at the trade deadline, or at the very least this offseason because you have that big $10.5 million club option hanging over the organization's head. And the key word there is health, 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 health. And I don't know if the Rays can stomach that investment for a guy who, hey, if you can't consistently give us 130 to 140 games, we got to move on and figure something else out.
Yeah. And so I still don't believe the Rays will move any of the big pieces. And by big pieces, I mean Randy, Brandon, Yandy. I don't think they will. I don't think so. It just seems like that's more of a move of the Blue Jays when you're 45 and 55.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
Yeah, oof. Underperforming as like they're the new Chicago White Sox, but people don't want to tell you that. I have, though, for the last damn 3 years. Just check the tapes, people. But going back to Brandon, you picked him as your July hopeful MVP. Yes. I picked Randy Arozarena. So this is a quick status update on how that is going because, man, we picked right in July. Brandon Lowe has a WRC plus of 164. Randy has a WRC plus in July of 159. Okay. Brandon Lowe has 5 home runs in July. Randy has 4 home runs in July. Randy is hitting 270 and Brandon is hitting 281. You've got the lead. But boy, have these guys just been going back and forth. It's been so much fun watching these two guys be hot at the same time. And it just makes you a little bit frustrated, melancholic, worried, anxious, whatever adjective you want to add in there, that Yandy Diaz, who was having a terrific July, has not been with the team.
It's like we can't have everything come full circle. There is one issue. Some things are working, something else isn't working. And I think there is something to be said for Lowe and Randy heating up in July and the Rays winning as many series of late as they have. But even winning as many series as they have, they're still only one game above 500. So it's like they can't elevate and push themselves to the next level. And then making the playoffs is very much in jeopardy. There still is a big, big chunk of the season that remains, but it's like we can't have our cake and eat it too, unfortunately. But hopefully those guys can continue to heat up. You add Yandy if and when he gets back from whatever he's dealing with, then maybe you can start to consistently score 5-6 runs in a ball game. But again, like I said the other day, if Yandy misses a couple weeks, if this is that big of an issue, I don't know how much time and effort he's able to dedicate to batting practice and real life pitching environment. And I think he could come back and it would take him some time to get back in the groove again, unfortunately.
Yes. So. Because if you're dealing with something that it's a personal family matter that is being tight-lipped, it must be something serious. So you probably don't have the same amount of time to put into
and focus the distraction.
On scouting reports, on batting practice, on going to the gym, like all of those things that you do during the season, those probably have been left on the side if this is such a big thing, right? Yeah. So it is going to take some time. I will be hopeful that we do have the situation where, we used to say Yandy Diaz can just wake up and hit.
Yes.
I think that's also a thing. I think, it might take him a little bit, but maybe less than others. Because let's also remember, this man also missed 2 months of baseball, and the first 2 at-bats that he had were in the playoffs, and he went deep back in 2019. So hopefully that's something like that we can experience again with Yandy.
That's fair. I guess the other consideration too is if he is doing his stretches and exercise, does he pull a muscle when he returns? He might get those 2 home runs, but then the next game he's running to first on a ground ball and something happens. So just want to throw that out there. Last thing I'll note on the game, we have underscored and know about Shawn Armstrong's recent struggles. Wasn't really expecting that this season, but something he has done very well and a role he thrives in. Look, I know the Rays have thrown in all directions, but the opener really seems to be his wheelhouse. And maybe this is, well, it's definitely a gamesmanship move and in a way to help win games when you don't have all your pieces together, and to give an opposing team different looks from the left and right side and new pitchers every time those guys come up to hit. But maybe this can get him on track, because you need Shawn Armstrong to be Shawn Armstrong of the past if you want to have some sort of chance. Not to say he's the biggest piece on the team, but you need a host of relievers besides Pete Fairbanks and Jason Adam that can get it done, because you can't rely on them each and every game. You got to have other guys be able to contribute. And if it's Shawn Armstrong having to be an opener, so be it. And that might set up well for a guy like Jeffrey Springs and Drew Rasmussen that will be returning at some point as well. So,
and then we might be able to talk about that in the second segment. But before you do that, I think one thing is a possibility that we need to recognize. Shawn Armstrong could very easily be dealt as well.
That's fair. Yeah,
I think being a free agent after this year, I think that also is a possibility. That if he gains some momentum, like last night, and gets it going for the next 2 to 3 outings that he has until the trade deadline, maybe you can get something for him.
Mm-hmm. That is fair. All right, we have more to discuss, but first,
this episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Yeah. With summer travel heating up, and boy, is it heating up. It's always humid, man. Kevin, are you sweating like right now?
Yes. Yeah. I'm always sweating in July in Florida.
Well, guess what? You can get out of Florida heat and maybe go to Chicago heat, maybe New York heat, maybe Baltimore heat. You know, Kevin just went to Boston and he had a great time. And you can do so as well with Booking.com. They've got hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more. They've even got hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts. They've got it all at Booking.com. So many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app today. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. That is impressive, people, because now you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. That means that you can turn $10 into $1,000. I think that's good use of that sports knowledge that you want to maybe, hey, how can I use this? Well, you can go to PrizePicks and you can download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
We have to tell you this. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, it being a Wednesday, we did want to sprinkle in a couple mailbag questions on this episode. This first one comes from our buddy, OG listener, Ty McCann. Ty says, what do you think are reasonable expectations for Springs and Rasmussen from the time they return until the end of the season?
Thank you so much, Ty, for bringing that question. I'll answer the first one. I'll answer it backwards with Rasmussen first.
Okay.
Because he's expected after Springs.
Correct. Yeah, because he had his procedure in July of 2023, while Springs had his procedure in April of 2023. So Springs basically has a couple month start or couple month advantage over Rasmussen, I guess I should say.
But it's not like it's very similar, like Tommy John for Springs and then like an internal brace for Rasmussen. So like it's going to be very paired up. their comebacks, but Springs should still be coming in first. But okay, rather that Rasmussen. I don't think you're going to see Drew as the starter, at least in 2024. I think you're going to see Drew as a potent, high leverage arm for situations that you need outs, that you need strikeouts. That'll be Drew Rasmussen's spot in the bullpen. And having the fluctuating bullpen performances that we've seen in 2024, if Drew Rasmussen is anything like he was in 2021, when they got him in the playoffs for the playoff run, man, that's going to be really, really good for this bullpen because it needs a little bit more solidification. Like Fairbanks has calmed down and has become the Pete that we always wanted. The first month, horrible. Right. After that, it's been better and better and better, which is great. Jason Adam, we've talked about that he was possibly a snubbed all-star. And now if you can add Drew Rasmussen, now you're shortening up the game in a way that 7, 8, 9 innings, you should be good to go in victories. You know, it would be very exciting to see Drew Rasmussen like that type of high leverage arm in the bullpen.
I agree with that. And interestingly, it was our buddy Aram Layton that put this out on the interwebs that in the first batter that Rasmussen faced, he recently threw an inning against the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. He threw a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. So the velocity hasn't slided or slipped since that internal brace procedure. And let's also remember, he's had 2 Tommy John surgeries prior to his entrance into professional baseball. So this guy has had a lot of work on that arm of his. And I think that's the move. I'm agreeing with you 100%. Use Drew Rasmussen as a 1-inning high leverage reliever. And then Springs, I think, because he has been making a lot of appearances at Durham and before that, and we're starting to see him built up to 3, 4 2/3 without too much trouble. I don't think he'll be as effective as he was during that 2022, what should have been all-star campaign, but I think he will be a really, really solid implementation. And I think that some of this could hinge on, well, we could maybe see the confidence level of the Rays for these two on whether or not they trade Zach Eflin. I guess if the deal comes together, if there's a good enough offer, they'll do whatever they have to do. But I think it makes trading Eflin more seamless, knowing that Springs and Rasmussen will be back available and be able to contribute in a meaningful way. But I sort of am leaning to the idea of, hey, let's keep Shawn Armstrong or some other guy, Manny Rodriguez, whoever it is, do an opener, then bring in Springs, and then you'll have Rasmussen for a bullpen spot. So maybe that's the way to approach it as well. And I'll note this, again, I will be curious to see how the Rays deal with a case like Springs and Rasmussen in the future, because these are both basically converted relievers. We saw the innings bump that they had for Springs 2021 to 2022. He went from 44 innings to 135 innings. What happened in 2023? The injury. Drew Rasmussen, 2021, 59 innings. 2022, 146 innings. 2023, injury. So I wonder what the Rays' approach will be that with these types of guys going forward, or if they don't care. They're like, hey, we're gonna pull your arm out, and if you have to have Tommy John surgery and be out 12 to 14 to 16 to 18 months, so be it, because we want you to be a starter down the line and be a major contributor for this organization. But it is something that we harped on when they got hurt, is when you're basically you're essentially tripling or quadrupling their innings limit from one year to the next at the major league level, something's bound to happen, I would think.
Some of that is sunk cost, that they're like, hey, this is going to happen, so they're going to get hurt. So, whatever may have you, that might be it. But yeah, when you see those numbers back to back, it's
alarming.
It's alarming. Exactly. It is alarming. I think the way that you at least take care of these two arms in the future is by doing what we're saying. Number one, Rasmussen, you're not going to be a starter in 2024. You're going to take it easy. You're going to be a high leverage arm, which, by the way, it also brings different bad things, quote unquote, to your arm because you're just leaving it all out there in 12, 15 pitches and you're just nuking the hell out of your arm. So that brings another thing, but whatever. Rasmussen, for innings concerns, I think he's going to be in the bullpen. Now with Springs, I'm going to change up what you said, but it's basically the same thing. I don't think he's going to have an opener. I think he's going to be a half starter. I don't know if we have that not even a 5 and dive. I think he's going to be a 4 and dive.
Yeah.
3.5, 3 2/3 and dive.
Maybe it's bulker. That's what they call it. You're in between a bulk guy and a starter.
Yeah, a bulker.
Whatever that middle ground is.
Yeah. I think he's going to be given the ball to start the game. Yeah. But I think after him, you're going to see a parade of relievers. Now, could that be Drew Rasmussen and Springs on the same day so that you can always have them kind of paired up? Maybe. Could Drew Rasmussen, instead of being a 1-inning guy, becomes a Wade Davis, Colin McHugh kind of guy that you can pair him up again with Springs always and just have him give you 2 innings those days, right? And you can cover some more innings while also taking care of his arm, saying no, if every time he pitches, he's going to be 2 innings, and then we don't see him for the next 2 days. Something like that to take care of him. I don't know, but I don't think we're going to see like normal starts by these two guys at all in 2024. Now, 2025, that could be something else. But
it could be.
Don't expect normal starts from these two boys.
Yeah, and if they're able to replicate what they did previously with the Rays, oh boy, look out, opposing teams, because I sometimes I feel like we don't give enough credit to what Drew and Jeffrey provided to this team. Like also, whether they're starters, relievers, whatever it is, but when they were starters together, you're talking about like two guys with well below 3 ERAs, like 2.5 ERAs.
So fun to see though. And like the different styles of both of them as well. Yeah. I will say this though, just like I said that when Civale was traded and you plug in Boz and I said, this team is better 100%. If you trade Eflin and you put Springs 2024, you're not making the team better. 2025, I think you are.
Right.
2024, with the innings limits that Springs is going to have, and the fact that he's coming back from Tommy John, we cannot put he's going to be the 250 ERA kind of guy, Jeffrey Springs. No, he's probably going to be around 450.
Yeah.
At best. Like right. if he gets better than that, awesome. I'll take it. Gravy on top. But my expectation from a guy that's coming back from Tommy John and is going to be kind of limited in innings, dude, as long as you give me less than a 450 ERA, I'll take it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. We do know with Tommy John surgeries, a lot of guys can and do return to their pre-injury level. Sometimes they even improve, but there can also be a lot of variability in that performance as well. So that is something that remains to be seen. But if they're on par, you'd have those two, Boz, McClanahan at some point in 2025, Pepio, Bradley, Eflin theoretically off the team. I don't know what they're going to do with Littell if they're able to get. Look, what I'm hearing just based on MLB Network and people that are on there that, hey, there's going to be a lot of moves made by the Rays between now and the offseason. So just keep that in mind, folks out there. All right. We have one more question to get to, but first we have to tell the audience something very important.
Game Time is the place to get your tickets, people. We've told you that many times before, okay? They've got zone deals. You can save more when you choose a section, and then at Game Time, choose the seats. They also have priority last-minute deals, which means that you can save up to 60% off buying last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you might be looking for. Game Time has it. And my favorite, the seat views. You can toggle this panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy to really get the sense of what you're actually going to be purchasing. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
You can catch every pitch of the Rays hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rays. Also, bookmark si.com/MLB/Rays for written content about your Tampa Bay Rays. All right, last question of the episode, final segment from Big Blue Fan on the Twitter X machine, also known as Glue. He, she, or they, whoever it is, could be a bot for all we know, could be a NPC. Hey guys, wondering what you think of Jose Siri as the future center fielder for the Rays. You think having 25 bombs a year while playing elite defense should be a no doubt starter, but I'm not quite sure. Are you more trying to go the Chandler Simpson route, or would you pay Siri or other?
Thank you for the question, Glue. I know it's not the first one, so thank you for coming back.
Yes,
that shouldn't be an issue if you are providing elite defense and 25 homers a season. That should be giving you a center field starting job anywhere in Major League Baseball. The issue is not that.
No,
the issue is the lackadaisical play that we saw in the first month and a half, the 40% K rate that we saw in the first half. I don't know how high it is right now. Maybe you can check me on that right now, Kevin. How high that K percentage is.
It is 35.2% presently, which is one of the highest in the league. It's the first percentile if you look at Baseball Savant, and not just the strikeout rate, but the swings and misses percentage and the chase percentage is also alarming. I mean, it's crazy when you consider this guy has 14 home runs in however many games he's played this year, and yet he has an OPS plus of 94 and an OPS of 682.
Yeah, he can be a frustrating at bat to watch for sure. Because you're going to see, again, 35% strikeouts and a bomb here and there. But I don't think he reaches 25 this season. He reached it last year, but I don't think he will this year. I think his tops is 21, 22.
Which is still really good for a center fielder, but when you combine it with the strikeouts and the lack of walks and not doing enough to get on base to leverage your speed and athleticism, that is a problem. I mean, his OPS, I'd have to look back at Kevin Kiermaier's numbers, but you're talking about a guy who can range between 20 to 25 home runs in Siri, and he still has like the same OPS as Kevin Kiermaier. Something's afoot there.
Something's afoot. Exactly. We're like, oh, Kevin Kiermaier doesn't have a bat. Look, if you put these two guys together, I would take Kevin Kiermaier's glove over Siri.
Like and his leadership and his effort. And we knew that Kevin Kiermaier hammed it out, but I don't think it was as lackadaisical at times and like really careless.
And like, for example, be that. No, be flashy, like catch it by your chest and all that. I love it. Go have fun. It's a kid's game. Do it. But what I'm upset about is you doing those things, and because you did them, you didn't make the play. I don't care if you do those things and make the play. Have fun, bro. You're an adult getting your mortgage paid by playing a game. You should be having a smile from ear to ear. Have fun with it, of course. But don't, when there's a right way of catching a baseball and a more risky way of catching a baseball, and you go for the risky way because it looks cooler, and then you don't make it when you could have done the former option, that's when people get upset.
Right.
That's when fans get upset. That's when your manager gets upset. And Kevin Cash has not said it that way, but he will say it in a different way. I remember earlier this season when he was asked about it, he said, "I'm just glad he made the play."
Right.
And I think it happened with Wander Franco and the flip thing last year. Just glad he made the play. That doesn't really that's not a glowing endorsement for that type of play. Kevin Cash doesn't like that flashy stuff. Like, he'll let it happen, but he's not a cheerleader about it.
Yeah, and I don't think the Rays like that flashy stuff, which brings up an interesting question from Big Blue fan there. So Siri is arbitration eligible in 2025. He'll be a free agent in 2028, and he does not seem like a contract extension candidate. I would see him maybe being with the Rays through 2025, see how DeLuca develops, see how some of the other prospects develop. I mean, there's probably a little bit of a reason why they drafted Theo Gillen to be an outfielder or center fielder, because they maybe view him as a guy to look at 3, 4, 5 years down the road, along with Chandler Simpson and others. But I don't think that the Rays view Jose Siri as a long-term answer. And the other thing, he has to, whether it's being benched or staying healthy or performing against certain pitchers, for them to want to pay him, he also has to post. He also has to be on the field. And he hasn't played more than really 101 games in a season with the Rays. And before that, I know he played 104 in 2022 with it was combined between Houston and the Rays. But it's not like he is, out there 130, 140 games a season. So I think that's a little bit of an issue. However, I will also say that the overall numbers do not look pretty necessarily for Siri, but he can come up in a big moment. I mean, there's been a couple games this season where he kind of single-handedly led the team
the games.
So that occasionally, a couple games a season, he'll be able to provide that big hit that is needed for the win. But is it enough to offset some of the other problems that you have with him, unfortunately?
There was a 10-game stretch where I think he won 3 games by just himself. Like, it could have been all the other Rays could have just played without a glove and he still would have won. Like, it was ridiculous. He has that ability, but the problem is you have to post, and you have to be a stable, productive guy. You can't just have high peaks for 3 days and then be absent for a month.
And you can't be all me first. You can be, I guess, to an extent, you can be me first if you have the talent of Wander Franco. And look, Siri has a lot of talent, but the overall value maybe doesn't match up to all the bat flips, all the quirkiness that he does in the outfield, the slow home run trots, all that stuff. I feel like the Rays aren't about that. They're about the sum of the parts and guys buying into what their ethos is. And
they want to have a multiple-headed monster, a multiple-headed monster. They don't want to be like, oh, we're carried by Aaron Judge. Oh, we're carried by, Juan Soto. It's the sum. It's a Yandy, Randy, Brandon, Josh, all together. That's what makes the Rays good. And when one person wants to take the spotlight, again, I'm okay with it personally, as long as you make the play. If you want to be, clowning around and you're still making the play, dude, go for it. Fine. But we will get upset when you were clowning around, when you didn't have to, and then you didn't make the play. That is going to make people upset.
Yes. And it can also kind of put your other players in trouble and at risk of getting hurt if you're doing 45-second home run trots, and then the pitcher or another pitcher comes in and says, all right, I'm going to plunk the next guy that comes up, or I'm going to plunk you the next time you come up. So whatever you think on that also has to be noted. Real quickly, Jose Siri, will he be on the Rays roster in 2025?
I would have said yes starting the season, in spring training. Now I say it as a coin flip, really. I think it's 50-50, bro.
Okay. So I'm guessing 2026, absolute no that he's on.
Yeah. I don't think he's in the roster 2026. No.
All right. That's fair. All right. Hit it up in the comments what you all think about that and more. We appreciate it. In the meantime, that will wrap up this edition of Locked On Rays. Thanks as always for making us your first listen every day. Everydayers coming up on the next Locked On Rays podcast. We're hopefully going to be joined by our buddy, Evan Klosky. That's all we'll say on that. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Goodbye.